On today's show, we have MAWilliams. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so Mark is a retired U.S. Army major after serving 23 years as a combat engineer before turning to filmmaking, where not only are you a writer, but you're also a director, which we'll get into a little bit later of how you came into doing both. He founded MAWilliams Films, a disabled veteran-owned production company based in Sumter, South Carolina. And Mark's focus through that production company is on independent film features with a strong visual storytelling and practical effects. Williams' feature debut, Mary's Lake, which just was released in 2025, is a supernatural camp slasher. The film has earned 7 festival awards to date, helping establish his voice as a filmmaker who blends character-driven emotion with crowd-pleasing genre craft. Mark lives in Sumter with his wife, Lindsay, and their 2 children. Mark, first, a big thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And then again, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, and glad to be invited on.
So we'll just dive right in. So Mark, you were a combat engineer in the Army, retired as a major after serving 23 years, and then you just decided to become a filmmaker, and not only just become a filmmaker, but you decided you would write, direct, edit, and produce your own films, which is a pretty big feat. I know some people struggle just to write. Some people struggle when they start just to direct, and you have done all of them and captivated some of the local horror film festivals, capturing 7 awards. So what led you to become a filmmaker and decide to just learn all the trades?
Basically, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. When I was a kid, it was really what I always wanted to do, but I was constantly told, to go practical and not chase your dreams. So I joined the Army instead, spent 23 years in the Army, and when I got out, I was like, what's now? What do I do now? So I started thinking about me always wanting to make films. And I talked to Shannon, she plays Kelly in the movie Mary's Lake. I was talking to her when we were backstage at Sumter Little Theater, and I said that I always wanted to make movies, and she said, well, the best time to do it is now. So after she said that, I went home, I started researching, I started watching videos, especially from Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, watched an episode of Joe Bob Briggs' Last Drive-In where he said, like, just make your damn movie. And the same thing with Lloyd Kaufman. Right. He's got all these things. So I started watching all of that, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my own movie. So I just went headstrong into it. But it's something I always wanted to do. And if I wouldn't have joined the Army, it would have been something I would have pursued instead of the Army.
Yeah. Now, from my understanding as well, where do you get your inspiration for your stories and your writing?
The majority of my inspiration comes from the nostalgia of 80s horror films. That was really what I absolutely loved. I was a huge fan of Joe Bob and basically all of his different shows. Rhonda Shears on USA Up All Night. I used to sit up, and just watch all these B-rated horror movies that would come out. And then when Blockbuster and all these other video rental stores would open, I would go down there when I was a kid every Friday night, and I would just pick out the coolest horror DVD cover or VHS cover back then, and take it home and watch it. And it was just like what I loved to do. So all of those old 80s horror movies is really my inspiration. And I tried to, I want to say mimic it. I tried to reinvent it in my films.
I got you. Okay. And so you also said that with some of your writing and your filmmaking, for you, it's kind of, therapy. I'm assuming that's because of your long career in the Army. I know for me, the therapy of writing was, secondary to my background as a paramedic firefighter and not being able to help my dad and watching him pass away. And so, that was my, my kind of go-to was writing. And so, yeah, you said it's kind of therapy. And so expand on that for us a little bit.
So writing has always been kind of therapeutic to me. Like I said, I spent 23 years in the Army. I spent the first 10 years of my career in Iraq almost.
Mm,
So, you know, I'm constantly thinking of ideas. One of the things that I constantly do, anyone who knows me, if I can't sit still, I have to stand and walk and pace. When I'm walking and pacing, I'm usually thinking. My mind's just going, and I'm usually coming up with stories and things like that. So one day I actually started writing them down and found out that I was an actually decent writer. So
yeah,
uh, it really helps me work through things. It keeps me grounded. And, through some of my experiences in life, I'm able to take those, especially the bad stuff, and basically project it into my writing. And it makes it, interesting and good. It's one of the, I guess, the weird things about artists is that some of the best music comes from people who have had hard lives or really horrible experiences in their life. They're able to portray real emotion in their writing. So it allows me to take some of the horrible things that I've experienced and basically put that emotion in my writing. So it does help me deal with things because I don't like talking to people about any issues I have. It's just not something I want to do. I never want to go and just, this stuff happened to me. But writing lets me basically work through it and not have to deal with it in everyday life.
gotcha. Yeah, and that's why when I was thinking of that question, I was like, well, I'll just let Mark expand, on that because I'm sure over the years, being retired, you've had the questions and yeah, but that's awesome. And you're right. I mean, the inspirations when the outside or your personal stuff is interjected into it a little bit, it does make, I mean, it makes great films and great music, and absolutely. So let's talk about your first feature called Mary's Lake. Has brought you quite the success on the festival circuit, which congratulations. And so you talked a little bit about it, but what's the inspiration behind the films, and um, did you face any difficulties or challenges while making it?
So the overall inspiration I had for Mary's Lake was when I did sit down and say I wanted to make a movie. I had about 5 different stories that I wanted to do. And the decision to make Mary's Lake came back to the fact of my favorite genre is camp slashers. I absolutely love camp slashers. Something about a camp slasher, removes especially a technological advantage that we have now, because if you put a bunch of people in a camp out in the middle of nowhere, cell phones can't save them, people can't just show up, police can't show up. So it makes a realistic issue for the people in the film to actually be scared of what's happening because the cops aren't around a corner and cell phones and cars and they just can't go where they want to go. So I was like, I want to do that. It also was easier for a independent filmmaker with no money to find a nice little place in the woods in order to film instead of trying to get fancy sets and everything. And then the other thing I wanted to do was I really wanted to blend some type of South Carolina culture into it. So I started looking at different stories, ghost stories and so forth in South Carolina. And then the story of Mary, which was the first woman accused of witchcraft in South Carolina. And I read her story and the horrible things that happened to her. So one night I said, well, what if she was actually a witch, and what if she cursed the lake, and what if someone built a camp on that lake and then some really bad things started happening? And then right when I thought of that, I like jumped down and started writing. 11 days later, I had the 98-page script done and was moving to go shoot the film. So that was the inspiration. That was the initial spark. And then from there, I wrote the film. When it comes to difficulties, being an independent filmmaker with no money is a lot of difficulties. So
Absolutely. Yes.
one of the things about independent filmmakers, you got to be very creative. You got to figure out how to get shots and how to do things when it's all DIY. Everything's DIY. You're trying to figure it out because you can't go out and buy the fancy gear and equipment and things that big studios can throw money at in order to get those awesome shots and those awesome effects. So I actually went back to a lot of old Fangora books I had, magazines, and Tom Savini's special effects books that he wrote back in the 80s and 90s. And I really started looking at those and looking at the lessons that they used in the 80s, because all that stuff to me still looked better than special effects that they use today.
Right.
So I started just going back and using the lessons that they had found out back then and implementing them. Beyond the shooting and everything, the next huge problem that an independent filmmaker is, you got a lot of people that you actually depend on to help you make this film. You can't hold the camera, direct, hold the boom mic, and move the lights and, you know, everything. You can't do it all. So you have to get other people to assist you in that. And you can't do all the acting either. So you also have to have a bunch of actors and stuff. So having all of these people commit their time and energy over this, 3-week period. It took 23 days to shoot Mary's Lake, with little to no pay. And in most cases, here's some hot dogs that I brought everybody and some
Right.
soda.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to rely on so many other people, and they're there because, when it's no money, they're there because they just want to be part of the experience. So the next thing is, being an independent filmmaker, you get this whole new level of stress put on you because you've got all these people there that are just happy to be there and be part of this. But at the end of it, you're like, I hope I don't make a piece of crap that everyone's like, I wasted my time with you.
Right. Yeah.
So at first it was like, oh yeah, this is fun. And then the stress factor hits you like, holy crap, I've got to make a movie that everyone here is proud to be of. And luckily we were able to accomplish that. And, that's the first hurdle in filmmaking, is if everybody that was the cast and crew loves or likes the film, then you're at least successful, because you at least got a film that you all can watch together and be proud of, versus something where everybody's like, don't release this piece of garbage.
Now, did that hit you in the on set, or did that actually hit you in the editing room afterwards, or both?
That hit me in the editing room. That
Editing
hit
room.
me on the last day of filming, when I called a wrap and we went right into the wrap party. We had fun, we partied, everything was great, and then I went home and I loaded my SSD drive in, and I had 80 hours of film to go through. I was just like, oh god, this is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with all that audio too. So that, like I said, that's really, really impressive. And I commend you on that. Absolutely. And so now, after all that stress and figuring all that out, you decided, hey, I'm going to become an official production company, which is entitled MAWilliams Films. And so, with that said, now you've got the rewards and the challenges of being a veteran filmmaker who owns his own production company. And so, what's it like building it from the ground up?
Well, I mean, at first it's a lot of pride, because this is something that wasn't handed to me. This is something that I built on my own. I built it through skill. I had a lot of help building it. For all the people that are around me that have supported me into making these films. So the first thing is it's you know basically a lot of pride, because you built this. This wasn't handed to you. It's something you've earned. So that's an awesome experience. Some of the downsides to it, though, is now you had a film that got 7 awards, so the bar is always higher. I'm always one of those people that it doesn't matter how high I climb, because the second I get to a hill, there's always another hill behind it that's even
Yeah.
higher. So it never feels like the journey is over. I've never been able to just sit on the bench and go, whew. It's
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I get to the top, it's another hurdle you got to climb, and that's what making your own production company looks like. Because made the film, won awards. I started a production company, and every time I accomplish something, it's like, oh yes, that's great. Let's slap hands, and then you're like, okay, well, we got to accomplish this next. We got to accomplish this next.
Right.
So it's like it basically gives you the sense that it's never ending. You're never hit the finish line, in my opinion. because there's always another hurdle that you got to cross. I mean, we just went to the South Carolina Horror Con a few weeks ago where we released Mary's Lake for DVD. At first, we sold over 100 copies. Everyone that's talked to me, it's been well received. So we got the awards. We've sold hundreds of DVDs now. We got another showing coming up. Hopefully we can sell more. And people have been ordering them online. So that part is great. But now it's like, okay, I got to make my next film and I got to find the money for it. So while I'm sitting here celebrating this success, I'm looking at the next hurdle of, if I want to make this next film, I got to start making all this other things happen. So, and then I'm, looking at all the things that are past that film. So it's a never ending climb up a mountain. Every time you see the top, the crest, as soon as you get there, there's another mountain right behind it.
Yeah, and speaking of mountains, that's funny that you say that, because I actually had a gentleman who reached out to me to see if I knew a DP that also had a sound guy, and you were the first one I thought of. I'm like, when are you filming? Because I know when he's filming, and so yeah. But we'll certainly talk about that one, because that one may be one that you might be interested in, because it's a faith-based film about a guy who wants to return a Purple Heart that he finds after a hurricane. And so, yeah. But moving on, this podcast is about missing the shift. When I refer to missing the shift, if you've never heard the show before, and missing the shift is pretty much, you made a mistake, right? And I certainly made a bunch of them back in the 90s with NASCAR, and so that's where the name came from. So how throughout your life do you feel, because the idea is to help people, right? And that's what we're doing. And so how do you feel you missed the shift in life, and what steps did you take to correct that miss? And just, you can expand on it as much as you want, but yeah.
So I think it goes back to like what I said earlier about when I was younger, coming out of high school, I wanted to make films. And one of my biggest influences was Tom Savini. And I dreamed of going to his special effects school. It's one thing that I wanted to do more than anything. But I got told by quite a few people I wasn't talented enough. I got told by a lot of people that you need to focus on reality and not stupid dreams. This is for things these are not for people like you. You need to go work. You need to earn a living. You are not that, and I heard that from a few people, and a few influential people. So I was like, I joined the Army instead. And I joined the Army, and when I got into the Army, I was in for about 4 years. And when I hit the 4-year mark, I was like, I want to take a break of service. Well, I actually took a break of service after the 4th year, because I joined in January of 2001. So as soon as I got out of basic training, I was at a mission readiness exercise, getting ready to go to the Eastern Europe, to Kosovo, and that's when 9/11 happened. And then as soon as 9/11 happened, it was like bam, 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 bam. Iraq was in the invasion. Came out of that, and before I got deployed to Iraq, I actually had a really good team leader. Had a lot of good NCOs actually back in the 5th Engineers, and they pushed me to go to college. And before then, I was told, college isn't something for you. You need to go work. So I actually took a short break in service, and I went to college. But at this point, I also made the same mistake again. I had an opportunity to go to Tom Savini School of Special Effects. But a lot of that stuff that was in the back of my mind, you're not talented enough, you're not good enough, you are a working class person, go work. So I ended up going and getting my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I got my associates in business management. And then I went back into the military. I was never technically out, but I had like a break to go to school. So I came back in, and I ended up switching from enlisted to officer, and, filled out my career after that until I eventually, retired. And I was also on the same path. Like, that's not for me. go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And when Shannon said that to me, and then I went home and I watched, there was an episode of The Last Drive-In called I forget, it's like one zombie cut movie. I forget the name of it. But at the end of
Right.
it, Joe Bob Briggs just had this awesome speech about, if you want to make films, just do it. Like, make your film
Right.
and send it to me because I want to see it. So when he said that, and then after what Shannon said, it clicked. I was like, you know what? I want to do this because at least I'll know in 10 years if I suck or not.
Right.
It was really
Yeah.
what I said. I was like, in 10 years, I'll know if this was the biggest mistake, or at least I'll have a DVD I can show my kids one day. Look at this piece of crap your dad made, or something like that. So I took a shot at it and I made it, and it turned out to be extremely successful. So I feel like 2 times in my life I had the opportunity to go into the direction of doing something I don't have any issues with the Army. I loved my time in the Army. That's
Yeah.
why I did 23 years. But I feel like I'm at home when it comes to filmmaking and writing. So I've missed the shift twice in my life because I didn't think I was good enough. And eventually, when I bet on myself, it turned out that I, in fact, am good enough to make a movie.
Oh, absolutely. I've had the opportunity or I'll call it the honor to work with you on a film, and it was a short film, and I went and I told at least 3 people. I said Mark will be he'll be one of those directors that'll be right up there with at the top because of how well you prepared and came out, and it was very impressive. So I commend you on that because to approach a short film that was only going to be 8 minutes like that. Yeah, I can see exactly why you were successful. And so from my point of working with you, you're absolutely good enough. Keep going and keep striving because yeah. And so one thing you talked about earlier was community, and you mentioned the Sumter Little Theater, and I know that you do a lot of volunteering and a lot of time spent over at the Sumter Little Theater. And so, how important in your filmmaking process so far has been that community partnerships, and what advice or how do you think they can help the independent filmmaker?
I think networking is probably one of the biggest things that any independent filmmaker needs to do. Because if you're going around, I'll tell you, when I first started going to make a film, I went and told a lot of people, I'm making a movie. Most people went, sure, whatever, guy, kind of
Yeah.
whatever, go make your movie. I even had a couple people that I tried to cast in the movie, like, look at me, and they looked at me with the thought that maybe I just wanted to like chase them around the woods with my cell phone or something. And I was like, so being part of Sumter Little Theater and being part of that community, there was a ton of people there that loved to act, loved to be in theater. So I made a lot of connections there, and that's where I got every one of my actors for my film, was because they're willing to spend weeks upon weeks doing one stage show, with 8 scenes, excuse me, with 8 different showings of that play
Right.
with no pay, just because they love it so much. I was like, well, this is my audience to make a movie. I can get actors who love to act and who will be a part of my film. And if I can compensate them, I definitely will. But if not, like I said, most of them just wanted to be a part of the film. They wanted to help. It was an experience. They loved the art. So through that networking, I was able to get a bunch of actors, cast, and crew to assist and then have the same passion that I had in the project, so that we were able to make a successful film. The next thing is, I think I've told a couple people, because I'm an independent filmmaker and I don't have a lot of money, I can scrape up some here. I do a lot of my stuff through networking. I do the art of the deal in order to get the things I need for the film. When it comes to shooting locations, I'll either go and talk to the people and try to work out some type of I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine in order to get those shooting locations done. Because I can't walk to anybody and be like, I'll pay you $10,000 to shoot here. I ain't got $10,000 to do that. But there's other things that I can do, either marketing or just a slew of other things that I can do in order to get them to be a part of it. I mean, I got several of my shooting locations just off of I will put you into special things whenever I do the showings. Like we're doing this Saturday, I've got a playbill where all the people that have supported me have their own little page with whatever thing that they have that's important to them. Like Sumter Museum, their new military museum that they're building. I have a little thing so that people can go buy bricks for that. Sumter Little Theater, I have all their shows for the rest of the year in it. So all the people that contributed to my project, I'm now trying to pay back in this way and other ways. So if you're an independent filmmaker, you need to get out and be a part of the community, because when people know who you are and they know that you'll come and volunteer, help clean a theater, volunteer at the local animal shelter or something like that, they see you are part of the community, they're more likely to assist and help you with the things that you need than if you just walk in and say, I'm making a movie. They'll laugh you out of the room. That's what you say.
Yeah. Normally they think the next question is going to be, and I need money from you. So how much can you write me a check for? So you're right. They do. They're like, okay, great. See ya. But yeah. So with that said, though, too, expanding a little bit, you do absolutely believe in utilizing, local talent, and there's got to be a sense of pride in knowing, that you're helping make somebody's dream of being in the entertainment industry come true. Because I know that a couple of your actor and actresses actually have won awards off of Mary's Lake as well. So yeah, I mean, how satisfying is that for you to see that? And has anybody just kind of been like, okay, hey, I saw you at the Sumter Little Theater. I'll come out and I'll help you. And now it's kind of been like, okay, I think this is something I want to do.
So one of my favorite stories is actually about Keenan. Keenan plays the killer, David, in Mary's Lake. And he's basically kind of my best friend around here, especially at Sumter Little Theater. We made the joke that he's my Bruce Campbell and I'm Sam Raimi, kind of in that
Right.
sense. But the funny thing about Keenan was he moved to L.A., Hollywood, to try to make a career in acting.
Oh,
And spent many years there, doing what everyone does, paying their dues, but eventually was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sleep on couches and cars and stuff like that. So, he moved back and, started his life. He did what, he basically, I would have probably, before I joined the Army, I probably would have been out there with him trying to make my life
right.
together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he moved down here and he joined a theater because he just loved acting so much. And then because he was such a good actor, such a good character actor, so good with his face and expressions, I saw him, just messing around backstage. And I had the idea. I was like, I want him to be my killer.
Right.
And a lot of people were like, oh, no, you got to have a big Jason. I was like, no, 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 no. I was like, I don't want to copy the Jason, the Michael Myers thing. I was like, I want him to be my killer. So I casted him as my killer, and he ended up winning Best Supporting Actor at the New Jersey Film Awards. And I think it was the most happiest in his life he has ever been, because I think his family supported him when he went to Hollywood, but he
Right.
felt like he let them down because he didn't, make it into like a big movie or anything. But then to come back to South Carolina to get casted in an indie film and then have that film play all up and down the East Coast, have him win some awards, basically kind of solidified, what he had always wanted to be and do. So, I'm extremely happy for him, and I'm glad that I met him, and I'm glad that he was able to be a part of this film. And it's like, I think he is like super happy because of this film. The other one was Shannon, who, inspired me. And part of that was she told me that it was her dream to always die in a horror movie. So I let her get absolutely brutally beaten in a horror movie.
Right. Yeah, you did.
So that was her big thing. But I absolutely loved working with everybody at the theater. I don't think anyone came up to me saying like, I didn't know I wanted to be an actor until I did this film, because all of them were already in the theater. I think they all
Yeah.
wanted to be an actor. I think, but most of them wanted to be a stage actor, and a
Right.
few of them probably have like, I never even considered being in movies as something that was possible, especially in South Carolina. If you're not in Charleston or near Wilmington or Atlanta or Charlotte, but Sumter, they just didn't think it was even possible or feasible. So um, there's a lot of talent around here, unearthed talent, and I'm just glad that I have so many of them who now believe in me and want to be part of my films that are coming up.
Oh, and I can absolutely understand. And speaking of your films coming up, so your upcoming production that begins filming in November is called Wolf 1945. And so tell us a little bit about what was the inspiration behind that. And if I understand correctly, speaking of the Sumter Little Theater, the original story was crafted by a member of the local Sumter Little Theater, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So Carlos Waters, he played Chris in Mary's Lake. It was We were close to wrapping production. I think we were like on our second or third day before production wrapped.
Hmm.
And Carlos approached me, and he said, "Hey, I've got this stage play that I wrote. I thought it might be a good film." So he handed it to me, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go home and take a look at it." And if you don't know Carlos, he is a wonderful actor. He's also an extremely wonderful person. He's a great person. He's written several stage plays that have won awards, also, but he's never
Awesome.
written a screenplay. So I took it and I looked at it, and I saw a lot of potential in it. It was a stage play. It wasn't a
Right.
screenplay. So I went back to him. I was like, "Hey, look, I think we can make this work. Except I want to go more psychological thriller." Um,
Mm.
and I kind of told him my ideas, and he said, "I like them." I was like, "Let me take it and let me add some stuff to it." So I took his stage play, I turned it to a screenplay, and I added more psychological thriller aspects to it, and I gave it back to him. He did some things, and we kind of passed the script back and forth for about 3 or 4 months until we got to a point that we were both happy with
Right.
what we have. So we're at a point now where we're going to start our first table read this weekend, and then we start filming late November, and we're expected to go until about mid-January on filming for
Gotcha. And now, what genre did he have it as a
it.
stage play?
He had it as a stage play as more of a World War II drama.
Okay,
It's
more drama.
basically what it started off as. It started
Yeah.
off as more of a World War II drama, and there's some, I don't know what it is about me, but I love not happy endings. So
Yeah.
he
You're a
had the
horror
happy
guru, got it. That's right. Yeah.
with the bow wrapped on it, and I was like, "Nah, man, we gotta make the
Yeah.
audience cry when they leave the theater."
Right. Yeah.
Um, so I wrote it. He ended up liking the ending that I threw in there, and he was just like, "Oh, that's pretty good." So hopefully, the ending has the impact that I want it to have.
Awesome. And so now, when you say late November, what is that, like before Thanksgiving, after?
It will start filming right before Thanksgiving. It's a little bit just past mid November is when the first session of filming will start.
Hmm.
Of course, the first week will mostly be given to rehearsals. With immediately following rehearsals, we'll go into principal photography and start actually filming the scenes. But we want to get everyone locked in, because unlike Mary's Lake, this one is heavily reliant on dialogue. And there's a couple really powerful scenes through dialogue, and we got to make sure that emotion is right and that
Yeah.
everybody understands their parts. Because if it doesn't, I think the film will miss. But if we're able to nail those parts perfectly, I think people are really going to like it.
Awesome. And so the reason why I asked that question is, how are you raising funds for it?
So right now, I got an Indiegogo campaign. raising funds for it. In that Indiegogo campaign, we have a lot of perks that people can get. These cool little perks that help us support the film. It's not us saying we want your money. It's us saying we've got these really cool things that we're going to give you if you give us money to make this film.
Right.
So like, some of them are what just simple people tend to like when it comes to like trying to build their careers. IMDb credit, because it gives you basically credibility in the film world. The more credentials you have on IMDb. So we have just those, but then we also got things like limited edition DVDs. These will have covers that will not go with the distributed film. These are completely only for the Indiegogo campaign. We got Indiegogo specific posters. One of my biggest things I'm excited about is this new idea that I have called the Real Book. It's part yearbook, part playbill. So one of the things when I got done with Mary's Lake is someone mentioned it'd be cool if we had a yearbook for Mary's Lake, that we could open it up and look at all the cool pictures of making the film and everything. And I was like, why the hell didn't we do that? So I was like, I'm going to start doing that with all of my films. It's going to be like a yearbook where we can open it up and we can look at all the weeks and days of filming, have some cool quotes from everybody, their pictures, let everybody at the end of it sign it like it is a yearbook. So we have that Real Book that'll be available as a perk. And this is the only way you'll get it, because once the filming is done, only the people who support the Indiegogo will get the yearbook or the Real Book, and then that's it. And my hope is that this thing really starts catching on, so all my next films people want to support just to get this Real Book, because I'm excited about it. I want someday to have 15, 20 Real Books where I can go back and look at all the films that I made and see all the cool, fun things that we did and just reminisce about, like you would at high school yearbook or a college yearbook.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you look at, I think they say M. Night Shyamalan, he writes all his feature films in a notebook, and then he'll start a new notebook. And so, yeah, his kids can go back and look at it and be like, this is where Dad wrote. Yeah, so I love that idea, absolutely, because that's something that stays around for a long time. So, yeah. I like that. And so we'll put our links to that Indiegogo on our website. And I think what people need to understand too is it's not that you're asking for like a large amount of money. Some of the perks start at what, $15, $25. Stuff that we blow on 2 bottles of water and a bag of chips. So yeah, is that where they start at?
So we have a few perks. They're limited at $1 and just $5, and these are to incentivize people. Just to, if you can give, and that's all you can give, then that's great. And then what you do is you get on the email list, so you get to see all the behind the scene pictures. You'll get some video that we take while we're filming that we don't put on social media or anything like that, so that you're part of the filmmaking process, so you can see it. And you also will be kept in touch with the development once it goes to editing and post, so that when the film is finished, when the film is getting ready to go to which film festivals, and eventually when we have what I'm calling our hometown premiere, where we're going to put it into one of the theaters around here and have a red carpet and try to get as many people in to watch it. And there's also some perks where you can get onto a private viewing of the film before it even goes to theaters, where we'll be online. So that way, no matter where you're at, you can just log on, watch it. And then me and probably Carlos, who wrote the film, and a few cast members will be online with you to answer questions and do a Q&A when we're done. So, you can ask whatever questions. But we have a lot of cool perks, from the helmets, the replica World War II helmets, to the canteens and a bunch of other items that you can get signed by the actors who actually wore them. And one thing that I would like to say, when if anyone doesn't know what Indiegogo is, I know most people know what the movie Terrifier is, with Art the Clown. Yeah. But when they made Terrifier the first film, it was off of Indiegogo. And the film didn't even make its goal on on Indiegogo, and he ended up getting money from a producer, $35,000, and that's how much Terrifier was made off of, was $35,000. Art the Clown is now seen on the same level as Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. Like, he's huge, right?
Yeah.
So what people should understand when you're looking at donating to indie film is, you know, you want to get in on some of these films before these people blow up, because you can be a part of it at the earlier level. Don't just look at independent film, and I'm not just talking about Wolf. I'm talking about all of them, because I've even donated to other Indiegogo campaigns that I think filmmakers, I believe in them. So I'm giving them 20, 25, $30. Crimson Harvest just donated to that a few months back, because that's got Felissa Rose. It's a really cool movie. So I donate to other filmmakers because I believe in helping these people reach what their potential could be. And there's a lot of great filmmakers out there. So if you do go to Indiegogo to donate to us, also look at some of the other ones too and support.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah,
is important.
Yeah, because I think he put Terrifier 2 on there too, right? And it I think raised like 250 grand the second time, and that's when the big distributor came in, and yeah. But it is interesting, as Mark said, to look at it, because you can actually click the button to see the most funded projects of anything on Indiegogo, and I believe it was the movie Super Troopers that was on there as well. And I couldn't believe that when I saw that. And there's a couple of more that have actually A-list actors and actresses that were funded through that. And so Mark's right. Just because he's raising money that way doesn't right. I mean, Lionsgate could come in tomorrow and say we want it. Blumhouse. Who knows, right? Because as Mark will tell you, I've tagged them both in posts, so I'm not sure whether they think I'm stalking them or what. But hey, it doesn't matter to me, right? But another thing too is if you're local and listening in the Sumter community to the show, there's ways to give too. That'll help with that, such as feeding the cast, or there's all kind of ways too. So absolutely, when we'll put some links on there to reach out, and if you just want to help and be part of it, absolutely. So looking down the road, because you said in the beginning you like to look down that horizon. And, so what other projects do you have that you're working on? Because I know you're not just like, you're probably as bad as me. You've got project, and then do you have any more down there?
Yes, I have a few more projects. So one of the things I learned in the Army, because I actually learned a lot of good things in the Army that I've actually been able to translate into filmmaking, and spending a lot of time in the S3 shop. All the guys in the Army will cringe when they hear that, but I learned what's called near term and far term planning. So I'm currently looking at the near term, and I have a couple other people that are starting to help me, and they're looking at the far term planning. And the next film after Wolf, I'm also looking at a movie called Open Casket, which I'm hoping to film over the summer. And that one is written by Jason. He's a good friend of mine. I met him at Crimson Screen Horror Film Fest. He's going to come down from Ohio to be in Wolf 1945. He wrote the screenplay for this one, and this one actually won a few awards in the film festival circuit. So he just wanted to get it made into a movie. He handed it to me and asked me what I thought, and I thought it was a great script. And it was also something that was written in a way that it can be filmed cheap but not look cheap. So working on that next summer. Also have the script for Mary's Lake 2 pretty much done. I just need to polish it a little bit, make it look nice, maybe do a couple revisions, have some people look at it, do a table read in the near future, see what people think. And then I'll probably enter that into a couple film festivals. And then I hope to film that one probably early spring of 2027. But I've also got a project I'm going to do with the Sumter Little Theater youth class, where I'm letting them write and act in their own short film. And I'm just going to walk in and come in and teach them how to direct and edit and to film it. And then we're going to try to submit them into a lot of film festivals coming up also, hoping to get the more people into the Sumter Little Theater's youth class for not only stage play, but also dip their hand in a little bit of filmmaking. And then I had someone say something to me, another South Carolina filmmaker, about making an anthology horror film, and where me and a few other South Carolina filmmakers will get together and we will each take a short film and direct it on our own, then come together and then put it together into one anthology film where all the short films are kind of connected together so that we're all doing a piece of the pie, and then we come together to bring the full pie and then have a feature film that we'll kind of push forward. So that's also something that I kind of got teased to me, and I like the idea of doing it. So I'll probably
that is pretty cool. Absolutely.
Locals to do that.
Yeah. And so if I'm just starting my career out, what advice would you give somebody that's starting to start their career or looking at it? Because, as you know, and I'm sure you've heard in the entertainment industry, it sometimes is very difficult to get a call back. If you even, and so that's kind of sometimes, where we might think that everybody needs to respond to us, they won't do it. And then, you're chasing a dream that's not there. So, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out?
So the biggest advice is you got to learn to just not quit. That's kind of the first thing is you're going to get told no a lot. I got told no a lot. You're going to have to be persistent, but not annoying. Be professional, but not annoying, basically. So if you want to be a filmmaker, my best thing is you can use your camera off of your cell phone if you need to, and then just kind of practice and work with it. Look at making a short film with just a couple people and get the practice together, and then submit it to some film festivals and see how it does. But just don't lose hope if it doesn't. If you want to act, one of the best things that I say to do is go to your local community theater. There's a lot of them in the South in this area. Go to those local community theaters and get in there and start because it just is going to make you a better actor. And try to get into roles that you necessarily don't see yourself fitting in. When I started theater after I got out of the Army, my first role was Stan the bartender. I literally just played me. I got behind the the bar, and I was just Mark. That's basically who I was. So I killed it. I was perfect. I can play me like nobody else. Right. But then after that, I got asked to play basically a gay character. So I had to really hone my acting skill. And I went in there and I did the best job I possibly could. And that role was actually the role where I ended up meeting Shannon and all the people who inspired me to start making films. So if I would not have taken that role, I probably would have never started making the film of Mary's Lake, because that was kind of one of the defining moments of my career. So don't ever turn a part down because you don't think you can do it or whatever. Always just go after it and try it. But go audition. Be persistent but not annoying. That's probably the biggest thing. I can tell you, I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of messages from people wanting to be in my films. If someone sends me a message, I try to always respond to them, but I have to tell you sometimes, and I'm not even that big of a person or popular of a person. I get so much sometimes I can't respond to everybody immediately or right away. So I can't imagine what some of the bigger people that get thousands of messages a day, if they would actually respond to you, because they might just not see it, or you might have just went to their spam folder. But I try to respond to people, but it's the people who are persistently annoying are the ones I will not work with. And I kind of put them I was like, no, I don't even want to deal with you. So you got to find that fine line of professionalism versus annoyance.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point too, because like the one thing that I learned when I got into it is the understanding of why you don't just send your screenplay to them and your idea, because if they even read that email, this is what I was told, and I never even realized this, but if they read that email and respond to you and they've already had that idea mulling over, then you could say they stole it from you. So
Mhm.
that's why too I had to learn that's why it's sometimes too the bigger names like Lionsgate and all of them say, hey, don't send it to us. We're going to delete it automatically. We don't want to see it because
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and I was like, wow, I can't believe somebody would just send in a screenplay. But and you never know when somebody might take it either. So yeah, I can see the
Yeah.
other side too.
I would
Yeah,
definitely not send my screenplay to anyone that you didn't trust.
yeah,
Like the two people who have sent me screenplays, the only two screenplays that I've read were two people that I met and I knew.
right.
Um, so I would not send a screenplay. I would try to create a relationship before you start getting a
Yeah,
screenplay. But your biggest thing, if you want, is to submit your screenplay to film festivals, and the film festivals will read it, and then they will put it out there. And a lot of times, I wouldn't say a lot, but you have a better chance of getting picked up at a film festival than you do sending it blindly to multiple people, because if someone ends up making something even close to your film, they may have stolen it. They may have
yeah.
not. You might have just had
And I
a
can tell you
typical like.
one thing I started doing too on just a couple of films is Stage 32, like for $35, which is near the cost of a festival, will allow you to send a pitch to some pretty high producers and they'll read it. And for that money, $35, they'll give you feedback. They'll tell you whether they pass or whether they want to see the script. And so, I kind of, I look at them a little bit because it's kind of like sometimes they sell people. And so but yeah, I mean, that's a great idea too, is absolutely the film festivals, because you never know who might be on that jury that they don't let you know, right? I mean, and because one time I entered a script to the New York Film Awards, and I would just thought, okay, I'm entering, and I'm new, I'm to the entertainment industry, and I got no idea. And next thing you know, I got a free script writing software, and I got some other prizes, and I got 5 free pitches on Pitch Fest, and I'm like, wow, okay, so yeah, and that's one thing I will tell you, Mark, very much impressed about is you have it down to a T of the film festivals and looking at them and understanding which ones are that you should enter and which ones you should avoid. So yeah,
That's definitely one thing I will say is when you do start submitting to film festivals, look at the film festivals, take time to read it, because there's some festivals you don't even need to submit to. And it's not because they're a bad festival, it's just that, you know, I have a horror movie. Why am I going to submit my horror movie to a religious festival?
yeah,
Like
right, yeah,
it's. I went through and I read it and I said I have a good chance. I knew Mary's Lake was not Sundance material. I knew Mary's Lake was not Kane's material. I know Mary's Lake is what it is. It's a good campy slasher film that independent horror people or B rated horror movie people will love. That's who the movie was designed for. So I specifically targeted film festivals that cater to that crowd, and that's where I found my success.
awesome. And so you touched on it a little bit about giving back to the Sumter Little Theater and and their youth program, and that's very commendable. But how else are you giving back? Are you focused on certain areas where you're giving back, or is it the youth, or how else are you giving back?
So I've done one of the big things in the military is volunteering is always something that you're kind of incentivized to do. So I have two major areas that I like to volunteer in and help out. One was animal rescue. I did a
Mm,
lot of volunteer work with Windy Ridge Animal Rescue here in Sumter. I even helped throw together a couple charity events for them to raise money to save animals because I love animals. I want to help animals as much as I can. My house is full of animals. So I, you know, anything I can do to help, animals, I'll usually try to do that. So that's kind of my selfless, volunteer service is when I do help the animal rescues. You even can go down to the Saving Sumter Strays on Monday to Friday, and what you can do is you can go down there just to volunteer to walk dogs. And what you do is you walk the dogs, and
Nice.
that lets the crew there that works there have the opportunity to clean their cages and do everything. And then
Okay.
the
Yeah.
dogs get out and they get to walk around and, get a little human interaction. So you can go and do that for like an hour or two on like Monday to Friday if you got that in the morning. Just walk the dogs out, let them clean and do everything, put their food together, and you bring the dogs back. So doing like little things like that is kind of something I like doing from time to time because, I love animals. The other one is helping youth. And it really comes down to basically how I saw myself as a kid. I came from a broken household. My family, my mom and dad were divorced. I spent some time with my mom, some with my dad. My parents were great. Nothing was
Right.
wrong with them. I wasn't like an abusive house, but like when you're in a house where your parents don't live together, it's you really don't get that mentorship sometimes that you need. So
Yeah, it's tough.
it's one of those things where if I maybe I don't want to say that, but like the reason I joined the army was because I was looking at the world practical because
Right.
when my mom being a single mother, we were in a very tight financial budget, so I didn't see money as something that was nice to have. It was essential. You needed to go work. You needed to go
Right.
earn. So that kind of really is one of the reasons that also pushed me in that direction. So I also don't ever want to tell a kid that you're not good enough to do this because practice makes perfect. The first time you try something and you're going to fail. If you didn't fail, then you didn't try hard enough, or what you were doing wasn't hard enough. So if you want to do something with enough time, energy, and dedication, you got to be dedicated. You will get good at it. So it's really giving kids that momentum and that drive and inspiration that if they actually want to do it, then they can do it. And sometimes, and a lot of times, it's often where the kids love the idea, but as soon as they see the work ethic that has to go into it, they're like, that probably isn't for me.
Yeah.
So, because filmmaking is hard, otherwise
Yeah.
everyone would.
Yeah, and I agree with you too, because you gotta, I remember the first screenplay I wrote. I was told it's awful, and I'm like, well, thanks. And she said no. She said I love and I'll never forget it. She said I love the story, but you have 20 different characters who we have no idea where they are because you jump from here to here to here. And she says, in the way you wrote it as an independent filmmaker, I'm not sure where you're going to get the $25 million you need to make it because I had the character on a yacht and then he was going here and then the Coast Guard was coming in. And she's like, hey, if you got $25 million in the bank, we'll write it, but come, so yeah, I think too, you got to, have that open mind, like you said. And so if I'm listening to the show and I'm nationwide, worldwide, and I want to find you, where can people find you?
The easiest place is to go to MAWilliamsFilms.com. That's my website. You can find all my social media stuff there. You can just click the little buttons, it'll take you right to my social media. It's got my most recent news. It has the links to both my Indiegogo campaign for Wolf or any other future projects that I will have. It also is where you can go to buy Mary's Lake DVDs if you want to purchase one of those.
Awesome. And we'll of course put those links on our website as well, and we'll put a little. We got permission earlier to put a little teaser trailer for Mary's Lake up on there. And yeah, if you like that slasher, film, and absolutely, it's a great film to watch, and um, Mark, we greatly appreciate it, and this is, thank you for being on the show with us. We appreciate you coming on. Again, we appreciate your service, and we're looking forward to your next films, and just we appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
Absolutely.